So here we are again with our startup stories, and today we have Mandy Powell of the GoodWash Company. So Mandy, welcome.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi. So let's start with you telling us, what does the GoodWash Company do?
So the GoodWash Company is a Welsh luxury wash and lifestyle brand. Um, but it's more than that. We use the profits and the business model to do good in Wales, whether it's through the making of the products or the reinvestment of the profits back into local sustainable projects. So basically, the GoodWash Company is trying to change the world one wash at a time.
Excellent. So tell us about your entrepreneurial journey with this business, or even before that. What have you been doing as an entrepreneur to get to this point?
I would probably describe the journey of an entrepreneur as a baptism of fire, to be honest. I left quite a secure corporate job. I was in a pharmaceutical company for 11, coming up to 12 years. And when you take the leap and you set up your own business, there's so many things you just don't know, but you just have to pick up and learn along the way. I think, and someone else has said this before me, it's something like you're trying to fly, but build a plane while you're flying. You don't know where the next step is, but you have to just believe in yourself and believe that it will just happen, even if you don't know how yet. Um, yeah, I think, and not everybody will think that you've got a good idea. Not everybody will think it's going to work, but you have to, be really strong and believe that, what you're doing will work, and just believe in yourself. Yeah.
Good. So tell us a bit more about, what's been happening since you started GoodWash. What about that part, of the journey from when you decided, right, I'm going to do this, to where you are now, 2 weeks before Christmas, and trying to pack all your goods to send out.
Having a slight breakdown, yeah. So we started just coming up 2.5 years ago. We started on this very kitchen table that I'm sat at today. We knew we wanted, we, even though it was a social product, we knew we wanted the quality of the product to really stand out and be different. So we based all the ingredients on like skin, hair, fur remedies. So we kind of mixed a lot. So we started here, then we went to the Cardiff Christmas market, which, we kind of sold out every day. So we were working 7 till 7 at the Christmas market in Cardiff, coming home, making more products, and then, fulfilling the online orders, staying awake most of the night doing that, and then going back to the Christmas market in the day. So that was kind of year one of our journey. We just didn't get any sleep. No social events at all. We literally lived and breathed everything we did, and it was, yeah, literally just taking every opportunity that we could. 2 years in, we launched our first shop a couple of months ago, and we've actually started to outsource now the bottling and the labeling and the soap making to Kelly, who's my co-founder. She's from Abergele, Conway. So we've outsourced it there. So when I come home at night, I can actually switch off and have a cup of tea. I don't have to be making more products, in my outhouse or my kitchen table. So we're at that stage now, I think 2.5 years in, where we've jumped from stage 1 to stage 2, where we're outsourcing a little bit, but it's growing so quickly. We need to look at, what's the next step, what's the next jump up.
So what do you think have been the key factors in the success of GoodWash over the last 2.5 years?
I think when you believe in something as your founder, that becomes infectious. Even if you're having a bad day or something's gone wrong, you're still believing in what your mission is or what you set out to do. And I think, people will be attracted to you if they align with your values and what you're trying to do. Not everybody will, but they're not your tribe, so it doesn't really matter. So I think, find who your tribe are, keep them close to you, and then, carry on your journey. But don't worry if people don't get it, because it's not for them. So that's that. And I think, every day is stressful, and I'm always out of my comfort zone, and I'm always rushing from one thing to the next, as you probably figured out. Um, you've just got to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, because the uncomfortable never stops. You're always in it.
And so you mentioned that. So what are the big challenges have you faced in being an entrepreneur apart from that?
One for me is that if you're in a business, a standard corporate business, there's different departments for everything. So you'd have a HR department, or you'd have finance department. There's always some department you can go to, or can you get me the figures, or what's the marketing budget, for example, for this year. And when you're in a startup and you're running your own, you are all those departments, and you have to figure out how to do a cash flow, or you have to understand the profit and loss sheet, or at least partially understand it to make a start. So I think that was one for me, moving from a corporate to a startup, was not having anybody to ask, oh, what are the figures, or what's the budget, because there isn't one. um, and I and myself and Kelly are every department. So yeah, that's quite a big thing. That was a big change for me.
Now, obviously, you're a consumer-based business. So, what's been your approach? What's been your strategy to engaging with your customers and truly understanding their needs?
We only started on Twitter and Instagram. So we didn't really use Facebook at the start, because I don't have a Facebook account. So we just launched with what we knew, and started with a small customer base, but made sure that we give them really, really good service,
Mm.
and that they would repeat. And then we never kind of pay people to promote. It's all organic growth, and it's word of mouth. And as I say, if people like what we're doing, and they like the mission and what we're trying to achieve, slowly and gradually more people have joined the tribe, and we get, I think it's something like 60% repeat business from customers, which is really high.
Mm.
um, and you just get that natural word of mouth. People really do believe in what we're doing, and I think because Kelly and I are very much the face of the brand, we're approachable. We send samples out to different customers to get their feedback. um, and customers are really honest with us, so everybody feels part of it. Everybody feels part of the Good Wash journey.
Okay, and then you mentioned this whole idea of, the mission of the business. Has that been quite constant since you started, or have you adjusted it as the business has developed over the last 2.5 years?
Um, Improving the lives of animals and people was something that is set in concrete and will be absolutely core to the Good Wash values. It's everything that we do, and it's the why behind what we do. Um, so every year we can change different projects that we work with, but because we're quite we're a new business, and we're quite agile, we can change if there's a need. So for example, we work with local homeless, we work with local dog rescues,
Mm.
in Wales. But when the Australian bushfires happened last New Year's Day, I think it was, sorry, we could literally switch some of the funds and help support the koala bears in the bushfire, for example. And and then our customer group really get behind that, because it's a genuine kind of desire to help animals. And then COVID happened then. So, looking back, what a year it's been. But after the fires, we had the floods, and then we had COVID. So, yeah, so as soon as COVID happened, we switched and set up a buy one, give one Diolch bar for all the NHS workers.
Of course.
We donated over £20,000 worth in the first wave of COVID to every NHS trust in Wales, and the majority of England. So, you couldn't do that if you were in a large corporate, because it'd take you 6 months to get through the red tape.
Of course.
So and that's something I really love about having my own business, is that you can be agile, and you can move to things that are really important quite quickly.
So obviously, running a business has its ups and downs, as we all know. So, have you had a significant moment of self-doubt since you've started the business? And if you have, how did you overcome that?
Yes, I have them weekly. um, I mean, going back to the very start, I'll talk about the business in a minute, but when we started, we went to a large marketing agency in London, really famous one. They kind of manage Liz Hurley and all the, all the top
Yeah.
celebrities. And they're really, really famous in Leicester Square. And we walked in, and we had this idea and we wanted some support. And when we said we wanted it to be natural and vegan, we wanted to have a dog product that was approved for humans. You could shower with your dog. We wanted to give some of the profits away, but not to a specific cause. It was more umbrella animals and people. And then the final nail in the coffin was when I said I wanted to have the Welsh language on it. They literally said, "This is never going to work. There's too much going on. It's never going to work. Welsh language isn't going to sell outside of Wales. Um, stick to your day job type thing. We're not going to get involved." And Kelly and I came out of that meeting, got into a cab, and I just felt like somebody, I don't know, like kicked me in the stomach. I just felt like, all my hopes and dreams were on GoodWash.
Mm.
And then I've got these experts telling me that it's not going to work. But look, we did it anyway, because we wanted to do it. And I think that goes back to the message I said in the beginning, is if you believe in something, then other people will, but you just got to find those people who do. And then
Yeah.
you can use, the marketing avenues to get to those type of people, because there are other people like you and there are other people who believe in what you believe in, but through marketing you've just got to find them.
And what about the business?
I think, sometimes you've got to say yes to things when you haven't got it. So if you're in a sales call and you want to land a fantastic hotel deal, and the hotel says, "Can you make handmade soap?" and you don't really know how to make handmade soap, you say, "Yes, of course."
Yeah.
"Yes, of course. How many do you want?" And then I go back to the farm and I say, "Kelly, we've got to make 900 bars of handmade soap for in 2 weeks." You quickly learn how to make soap, but then there is a point in that where you think, "What am I doing?" Let's just go back to the safe haven of having a salary, a salary every month where you don't have to worry and you can switch off. So it's just because your name's on it, it's your business and it's consumer facing. You go into those calls with those customers, you want to make sure that they get the best customer service, and you over deliver on what you say. You never want to let anybody down because it's your business. And I think you may have that with if you're working for somebody else, but it's different when it's your own, because you give in your word and you don't want to let anybody down. So the pressure of that, I think, makes it worse. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, it does. Yeah, well, it's you, isn't it? You are the business, so
Yeah.
it sort of reflects you, yeah. So, we talk about entrepreneurs, and one of the things I've learned is that the great thing about studying entrepreneurs for 30 years is that it's not a homogeneous. It's everybody's quite different.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you, from your experiences, if you were to think about what a typical entrepreneur would be, how would you define them from your experiences?
They've always got something about them. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different personality types. You can have a shy entrepreneur, you can have an extrovert entrepreneur. Everyone's different, but they've all got, the courage, and they're brave because they want to take that leap of faith, and you know, they've got the gumption to do it, I suppose. Whereas lots of people talk about, setting up this business, or that would be a good idea. And everybody can talk about it. But when you actually step and do it, that takes, I don't know, self-belief and a bit and gumption, I think. So yeah, I think everybody possesses that. Everyone I've met has got that something about them, where
And I
they,
think,
where they don't want to settle. They don't want to settle in a wage job where they feel safe. They want to take that risk and you know achieve the dream, I suppose.
and I think you're absolutely right there. So that we find from the research, in that, so you'll find that 15% of people say they've got a good idea, or there'll be an opportunity to start a business, yet only 3 to 4% do. And
Yeah.
I've said to policymakers, that sort of, turning that is probably the most important thing. If you
Yeah.
can turn most of those people, as you say, if you can give them that self-belief and encourage that self-belief, get more businesses coming at the end of it.
Let me just knock that off. Sorry.
No means.
Sorry. Yeah, and absolutely. And I think going back to my culture, so I'm from Port Talbot, and my parents live in Port Talbot. And when I told my family that I was leaving my safe job and setting up my own business, that was the worst news in the world for them, because I think Wales as a nation, maybe we're changing now. I don't really know the figures, but I think as a nation we're quite risk averse. We like to stay safe and just get by, generally speaking, obviously. So yeah, so that was the kind of reaction from my family as well. So I was like, oh, I'll be fine, it'll be fine.
So what do you think is the most important lesson you've learned since being in business?
Um, I think learning to deal on a personal level, it's learning to deal with the stress and anxiety, and you don't have to respond to everything all the time, and you don't have to say yes to everything.
Mm.
I think when it's your own company, as I said in the beginning, your name, and you don't want to let anybody down, and you want to say yes to everything because you might not get an opportunity next week. So you say yes to everything this week, but then you learn to chill a bit and have faith that there'll always be another opportunity. I think Richard Branson says business opportunities are like buses. There's always another one that comes along. And I read that years ago, and I always thought, like, he's so true. Like, it is so true. You say no to something because you can't actually hit the deadline, but then something else will come next week, but you don't know what that is. So it's quite exciting.
I mean, I'm talking to one of the other entrepreneurs last week, and they were saying sometimes, it's just about being in the right place at the right
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And you have to, obviously, it's like, this is the thing we were discussing with another one. I was saying the old Gary Player thing. Everybody called Gary Player a lucky golf player, and he always said that's odd because the harder I practice, the luckier I
Yeah.
get. And
100%.
I think, and it is that
Yeah.
as you said, it's about being in the right place at the right time, but you've got to have everything behind it as well, haven't you, really?
100%. And if the product's good and you're genuinely, what you're saying is what you're doing, you're authentic, and people love authenticity, particularly now, when if you look at Forbes and Mintos and all the kind of, market research forecasts, people are going back to like supporting local businesses, moving away from the larger chains. And they want to do good as well. And if they can pay a little bit more and do good at the same time, they will, because they want to change the world
No, absolutely.
one walk at a time.
Absolutely. I knew you'd get that one in. um, Obviously, we're going to be using some of this to try and encourage young people to start up their own businesses, which is obviously what we're trying to do. So what sort of advice would you give to those young people about to start a business, who would be thinking about wanting to become an entrepreneur? What advice would you give them?
Surround yourself with people who A, believe in what you do and will support you, and B, have a skill set that matches yours. So like there's things I can't do, like filing emails is one. I'm rubbish at that, but I'm quite creative. So I think if you know your strengths, find people around you who can fill your weak areas. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, yeah, that's key for me. So we've got a really strong team, we've got a really strong board, and board member A is really good at something I'm not good at, for example. And my co-founder Kelly, we complement each other. We're like yin and yang, but we do complement each other in terms of our skill sets. So that's one. And the second point I'd say is sometimes you don't get overnight success. You've got to stay at it, and I think stay in the game. Think of the tortoise and the hare. Stay, and opportunities will come. Just keep being consistent, keep doing your thing, and And even if it, if it doesn't happen in a couple of months, then keep going, because eventually it will, but stick at it.
You mentioned a couple of entrepreneurs in our chat. So who are the entrepreneurs, other than obviously other than yourself, who you admire the most, and why do you admire those entrepreneurs?
Oh, that was a question I wasn't expecting, that I haven't put any thought into. Um, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but any entrepreneur who set up their own business and made it a success, I think it's a fantastic thing to do. There's so many pitfalls, and it's really hard. You don't get to go to the gym, you don't get to go out socially, you miss a lot of friends. You can't go to events because you're working. It's a massive sacrifice. So to any entrepreneur who's made a success of their business, I would respect. But off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone right now.
That's all right. So looking back, right, it's been a bit of a journey, as you expect. Is there anything you'd do differently if you could do it all over again?
No, I actually don't think there is. I mean, traveling to the Olympia Stadium in Kensington for a UK vegan conference with a little Welsh sheep and a couple of boxes of products. And we were in between Lush and Body Shop, and they had sinks, models, plants, you name it, like music systems, everything. And Kelly and I were sat in this little stand with a little Welsh sheep footstool thing. And I had to use my scarf as a tablecloth, because I didn't realise we didn't have tablecloths given. And all our little GoodWash products there. And you know what? We felt about this big when we walked in. We actually wanted to turn around and go home, because we were like, but people loved it. We were like these two Welsh girls making their own products, vegan, in between these two massive things with music blaring. But we were brave. We went there, we did it, and we sold out. And we've still got pictures of that. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything, to be honest. The only thing I'd change is, try not to worry so much. I think in the beginning I was quite worried about if it would work, and trying to get back to people really quickly and always saying yes to opportunities. But I think I would just try and chill a bit.
Yeah, but I think that's the Welsh psyche, isn't it? It's like, oh, what would Auntie Gladys say if I don't succeed, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to go. I don't want to go home to Port Talbot and my mum and dad say, "Told you."
Exactly.
Yeah, I told you. Go back to Pfizer.
I mean, I remember there used to be, Rodri Morgan used to tell the story about the two Welsh lobsters. Have you heard about it?
No.
The story. So down in Munt, where he used to go, and
Yeah.
Rodri used to take the story, and then they'd be bringing the lobster out in the big basket, right, or the plastic basket, and then the little boy, one of the visitors comes down, and you see one of the lobsters is trying to get out, and he says to the fisherman, "Look, the lobster's going to go out," and the fisherman goes, "Oh, don't worry about that. They're Welsh lobsters." And the little boy said, "What do you mean?" "Well, once one of them try to get out and do something on their own, the other buggers will drag him back in again."
Yeah, so true. Yeah. There we go. He's right on that one. Yeah.
So, Kelly, you're now the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom for your sins. So, if you were allowed to introduce one piece of legislation or policy to boost entrepreneurship, what would you do, and why would you do that? What would really, do you think, make a difference?
What a question, Dylan.
Like,
I think so I'd look at what's the biggest barrier to people doing it first, and then I'd try and counteract that. So I'm guessing the biggest barrier is either funding or fear of failure. Um, so I put in policies around that. So I don't know how, and it's really generic answer, but I think we need to encourage more across the UK, even, not just Wales. I think if you look at where Great Britain was, years and years ago, and then you look at where it is now, and I think COVID's made us realise that we rely on, so many other countries across the world now to get the most basics of products. And I think we need to have a conversation around that in terms of, less. I don't want to do a Trump here, but like Great Britain could be great again, like, and we need to encourage that.
Mhm.
So that's what I would do as Prime Minister. I'd set up a marketing campaign and say, let's make Great Britain great again.
I thought they had.
And
Obviously.
I'd enable people to do that. There we are. That's what I would do.
Good. Okay. Final question then. Tell us about your plans for the future of GoodWash.
I've just told you about a really exciting new collaboration before we started the interview, so I can't mention that yet, but that's really, really exciting. We have started our first shop, and we've got our website. We do currently sell across the world, so we sell in Abu Dhabi and America, but it's very much bespoke at the moment. So next year we are going to be taking GoodWash to the world, and we're so excited. There's so much to do from now until probably Q2, but that's the plan, and we're certainly on track to doing that. So we can't wait.
Do you think I mean, this could go, well, I think it will go absolutely ballistic, right, globally. I mean, are you slightly worried about overtrading here? In that, obviously, demand could actually outstrip supply, that there could be so much demand for this that you won't be able to produce. How are you going to deal with, it's always a great problem for every entrepreneur to have, but usually it's the most difficult problem.
It's the problem that we've been having for the last 2 years. It's constant. I don't really market anymore, because if we put on a marketing campaign, we don't even advertise to trade, because we're literally at capacity at the moment. So we don't want to do that, because we don't want to let anybody down. So it's a very kind of tight game at the minute in terms of, we're at capacity, I would say, pretty much at the moment. So we need to sort out all the back stuff to enable us to do that before we grow.
Okay.
So that's our kind of plans for the next 3 months, is how are we going to make 10 times what we're making now, and still keeping it ethical, sustainable, which is really core to what we
Absolutely.
do. So how do we do that? How do we support local? How do we keep it as good as it is now and grow it? And we'll be looking at that over the next 3 months, and we'll have an answer in March.
Brilliant. Thank you. Brilliant.
No
Thank you
problem.
so much for that.